Hey everybody, welcome back to the Neon Wrangler Saturday morning serial. Apologize for being away for a while. As you can tell, I've got a voice issue here, and but we still got some really good information for you. So welcome back to the corral here, and I'm going to talk a little bit about some of my recent adventures. But we're going to have Dave tell us about the 9 millimeter parabellum or not necessarily the Luger, but 9 millimeters in general and the parabellum. So, Dave, take it away. Sorry about that start earlier.
No problem. Glad to be back. Glad to see my cohort over here ready. But tonight, yes, my little topic is going to be about the nine millimeter parabellum. Now, a lot of people may associate this 9 millimeter with it. It starts in what we refer to as the socialist regime of Germany back in the 1940s, 1930s. However, the 9 millimeter parabellum is far, far uh, older than that. It was actually designed in 1901 by George Luger, an Austrian firearms maker,
Okay.
specifically ammunition. The 9 millimeter actually is a cut down case of the 7.65 by 21 millimeter parabellum. Now, parabellum, just a side note here, actually means prepare for war.
Wow.
It's
Okay.
it's actually one half of the Latin for if you want peace, prepare for war. So which is sis vis pacem parabellum.
Okay.
So I don't know what it is, but I always seem to get these Latin terms with every one I
Everything
want to
you do,
try.
yeah.
But the 9 millimeter, yeah, was conceived in 1901. It was a cut down. It was a cut down design of the 7.65 by 21 millimeter parabellum, which George I want to say George Lucas, but George Luger designed that round too back in the 1890s. But
Cool.
he actually attempted to market the 9 millimeter to the United States Army first, and they rejected it for the 45 caliber.
Yeah.
So the 9 millimeter, which can be called the 9 millimeter Luger, the 9 millimeter NATO, or simply the 9 millimeter or 9 millimeter parabellum.
Okay.
But the round is actually a fairly old round. 1901. That's well over 100 years old in today's terms. And
Uh-huh.
but ultimately, the German Army, German Navy, and German Air Force picked it up as their round that they used starting in not starting, but going into World War II. Now, the 9 millimeter gained its popularity actually came to the United States in about 1969. It's used today by about 60% of the law enforcement agencies in this country. But
Hmm.
it actually got its start in 1969 with the Illinois State Police.
Wow. Okay.
So it's been around for a little while, but it really gained its popularity in the 1980s and 1990s when a lot of the police department and law enforcement and gun enthusiasts discovered that criminals were carrying much more higher capacity weaponry than what a revolver
Yeah.
would encounter. A revolver, you're singled out to 5 or 6 rounds at most, whereas a 9 millimeter you could keep interchanging magazines and you could literally have a pretty endless supply of rounds. If you got enough magazines loaded up with a 9 millimeter, but
Uh-huh.
there we go. The history of the 9 millimeter, and I hope people got something out of that. Just remember, George Luger, not George
George
Lucas, but George
Luger.
Luger, designed and created the 9 millimeter round in 1901, cut down from a much larger. So, to kind of go into it, but you know how you got the much larger rounds that have like the tapered ends, come up. So
Right.
what he did is he took one of those shells and he cut the shell down, removing that tapered end, and it created a 9 millimeter, casing.
Okay.
So that's where that comes from. So I hope somebody learned from something from this, and if not, you still learned something.
Yeah, exactly. Even if you didn't learn anything, you learned something.
Yes.
So that's very interesting. I mean, honestly, because of that, and I know that today, the 9 millimeter round has gotten a lot more powerful than it was, even in the 80s or 90s.
Yes.
And so it's comparable now to, I guess, I've watched videos on it, but they didn't give the history. They just talked about it. And some of them are as powerful as a freaking, what do I want to say here? Anyway, just they're powerful.
Speaking of that very thing now, the 9 millimeters of today are actually more powerful than the 38s.
I believe it. Yep.
I mean, I remember when we first started with the 9 millimeter round in the late 1980s when I started my law enforcement career. And I remember a lot of the firearms instructors would say, oh, you're going to put somebody's eye out with that, or
Yeah.
they would talk about stories where bikers would wear heavy leather jackets and the 9 millimeters wouldn't, penetrate, wouldn't penetrate the leather jackets that, bikers or other people would wear. But that's not the case anymore. I mean, the 9 millimeter itself now is still the same round. It's still 9 millimeters, which is the circumference of the bullet. But it's the powder, the grain powder that they use.
Yep.
That create a much more powerful explosive cartridge that sends the round out at a little bit higher rate of speed, and some of the technology in the jacketed ammunition creates a more lethal penetration.
Yep, I've seen it. It's some of these videos show how it's practically comparable now to the 45 in some respects. It's got it hasn't got a deeper penetration than the 45, but it's competitive, with that. And a nice thing about a 9 millimeter is for law enforcement or anybody else who's shooting them is they're relatively what's the word I want to use? A relatively easy gun to fire and carry and reload. Versus
it's also far more inexpensive.
Yes.
To maintain loads of 9 millimeter than it is any other round.
I believe it. I absolutely believe it. Yeah.
So there again, there's my take on the 9 millimeter, and I'm not going to switch it over to my cohort here, Mark, or the Neon Wrangler, and he can tell us his experiences of the past couple of weeks that he's had personally, and I'm very very interested to hear how your past couple of weeks have gone.
Well, they haven't been great, but they've been okay. Let me tell you what happened to me. We went to see a grandkids, and the hotel we normally stay at, we asked them for a disabled room because I'm disabled. I don't know if any of you knew that, but one day the Wrangler will be back on the horse, but right now I'm going through physical therapy and all that for my disability. But we asked them for a disability room. Well, we get in there and the place is just tiny. It's a tiny little room. And at one point, I can't remember what happened exactly the first time, but I fell. I took a digger. I fell onto the ground, which is never any fun because I can't get myself up. And Jen's just not strong enough to do it. So we called the EMTs, and they hooked me up and got me back on my feet and into bed. And then a couple nights later, I'm laying there, and I just slide right off the end of the bed. Just like something was pulling me. This isn't a paranormal story. This is a real story. I just started sliding off the bed, and I slid in between the bed and the dresser and some kind of coat rack thing. So we had to call them again, and it was funny. It was the exact same paramedics that came to show up. It took them forever to pull me out of there, but they did. And anyway, I went to the hospital, and they had to check me out. And part of the problem is I have what they call ascites. Now, a lot of you are thinking, oh, he's a horrible alcoholic. And I'm like, no, I'm not. In fact, I haven't had a drink in probably 6 months or more. I mean, and I'd quit drinking altogether, which was not a hard thing to do. But anyway, I get to the doctor, and they start probing me with, I guess it's the ultrasound. and they decide they have to do what's called paracentesis on me, which is where they drain fluid out of your body. Well, I laid there on the table, and what they do is they take a big long needle and stick it into your abdominal cavity, into the pockets of where this fluid's being stored. So they did that to me, and I almost had the hospital record. They pulled out 17 liters of fluid out of me, which is almost 50 pounds of fluid, or between 40 and 50 or something. I can't remember exactly. They pulled out so much fluid they couldn't believe it. In fact, they were going to keep going, but they were watching my vitals, and the head nurse called it off. She goes, "Your vitals are just starting to drop, and we can't risk, something else." And I'm like, wow. I mean, I've been really good. I've been eating and behaving myself. I haven't done anything wrong, but I was like, I don't know what's causing this. But anyway, on the way to the hospital, something really funny happened. As they were loading me out of the ambulance, this cute little, how should I describe her? She's a paramedic. She doesn't live inside the ambulance, but she's on the call. And her name's Lexi. And she and I had some laughs earlier the last time. And as I was getting out, my pants were falling down. I said, "Lexi, you can't look at my butt." And she goes, "I see your booty butt." And then this guy says, "Looks kind of flat to me." And I'm like, "Oh, well, whatever, I don't care if my butt's big, flat, whatever." And I'm like, "Okay." And Jen says, "Oh, you made him jealous." And I'm like, I probably did, because then she came in with me to the room, and she sat there the whole time when they were draining me, and we were chit-chatting and stuff like that. But so I got this fluid off of me, and I thought, good, thank you, thank goodness, I'm fluid-free right now, or not free, but they took off about, like I said, 40, 50 pounds off of me. And that has made a big difference right now still. And so we go back and we ask for just a regular regular room. We got that, and we were more comfortable there. But it was still scary to take another one of those falls. They fall a lot around here. In fact, here in Toccoa, sorry, I shouldn't give my location. Here in Wrangler Land, the paramedics know me by name, because I fall a lot. In fact, I've got a big nylon sheet over here they use to pick me up with anytime I fall. They left it here. They just leave it here because they know they might have to use it, which was kind of funny. But anyway, back to the story. I get home, and they had put some patching on me and stuff, and I got back to the disabled room, and this was, oh gosh, this was before. Anyway, I got back to the disabled room, and my wound started weeping out of my skin. So this disgusting liver juice was coming out of my stomach, I guess through pores or something like that, and smelled terrible and all that. So that's when we got the different room. And so then we came back here to Wrangler Land, and boy, I mean, that was a long trip. It was an 8-hour trip, and we kept having to change bandages because I kept weeping. My wound kept weeping and draining and stuff. Finally, get home, and Jen packs me up right. She puts me on the bed, packs a towel under me, and all this other stuff. And we already have some stuff that we use, and we got that going. But I did recover, and eventually the wound stopped weeping, and that was good news, because even though it was, I can't show you what my stomach looks like right now. I don't want to stand up. But I have huge, they look like big scratches across my belly. And what part of that was I was blistering and all this other stuff because they gave me the wrong kind of bandage. So my wound was blistering and oozing and all that kind of stuff. And we finally got that bandage off of there. And I packed it up and I finally stopped. What did you call it? I finally stopped. The wound finally stopped bleeding. It just became a regular wound. And that's been a relief, other than having to fight liver juice every night. But that was my adventure in Indiana. And so, if any of you guys have any questions about paracentesis and what the paracentesis and the ascites, you can get it whether you drink or not. But most causes are alcohol. However, I've been dealing with this damage to my liver for years. Every time I go in, and it happened again, they scan my liver and they say, "Oh, it's all scarred." And I'm like, "Okay." And then they always come back and say, "Well, your liver panel looks perfect. Your liver enzymes are fine. It doesn't show any damage." And I'm just like, "Well, I hear that every single time this happens. I have to get my liver checked. It never shows anything, And they were, that was kind of my adventure. And so, if any of you got this problem or need help or advice or whatever, let me know, because it can be a pain in the ass having this crap run out of you. So I don't think you'll break my record. I hope you don't, because it was very unpleasant. But that's my story for today, and I didn't mean it to make it all about me. We usually have more interesting topics, but I thought this was interesting enough to describe what was going on. And come to find out, if you got too much ammonia in your body, you'll get that ascites too. And that can come from different places and different habits and stuff like that aren't related to drinking or anything like that. It can happen. So you got to be careful of your diet. You got to make sure you go to the bathroom every day, which is no fun when you're disabled, but you have to do it. And then just watch out for yourself. So that's my story for today for Neon Wranglers. What do we call this? Neon Wranglers Saturday morning cereal. Saturday morning cereal. You can still
definitely added a.
Oh, what? Go ahead, Dave.
I said that definitely added a different flavor to our Saturday morning cereal selection today.
Yes, it did. And so this is more of a PSA than anything, But
I'm glad you're back with us, and we can continue our total randomness here at the Saturday morning cereal show. And just to give everybody a preview of next week, this coming week is April 1st, which people know as April Fool's Day.
Okay.
Well, next show, we're going to find out why it's called April Fool's Day and why April 1st is the day for that.
Very cool. I'm very anxious to hear what you got there. And I'll have something interesting, too. I just haven't gotten around to next week's topic yet myself, but it'll be something fun and interesting and stuff like that. And but anyway, I appreciate Dave kind of carrying the show tonight, but that's going to be it for us tonight on Neon Wranglers Saturday morning cereal. So like, subscribe, pee on it if you want, whatever it takes to, you hope you
to get you engaged in our show.
Yeah, we'll get you engaged. We'll get you all kinds of stuff that you might need. But anyway, you guys have a great week, and Dave and I will be back next week. As you can hear, my voice is still messed up from, I'm not sure what, but I've been coughing up a lot of stuff. But you didn't need to hear that. I did not say that. Strike it from the record. I'm going to redact that with a Sharpie. But anyway, hey guys, thanks for coming in. Have a great week, and we'll see you next week at Neon Wranglers Saturday morning cereal.
See you then.
Yep. Can't wait.